Well. You have reached the occasional podcast, and believe it or not, we are in a new season 10, the grandest season of them all. Part-time audiophile editor-in-chief Mark Phillips and myself, Brian Hunter, are fresh back from the Florida Audio Expo in Tampa. I captured some really great interviews that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks for you there with some really big names in audio, so keep an eye out for that. But I also want to mention, if you're interested in supporting the podcast and the site, please do check out our record weight that is available at the top of the Part-Time Audiophile website. That is pt.audio or parttimeaudiophile.com. You just click on the record weight there, and those are available to purchase, and that supports the site as well as our advertisers. God bless them. The wonderful people that help support the site so we can keep doing it bi-weekly all year long. This is season 10, and we have a whole crop of new stuff to go through. So what to look forward to the new season? We'll have interviews with big names in audio. We'll have plenty of education. We're going to talk tubes. We're going to talk Class D. We're going to talk speakers, amps, sources, digital, analog. We might even talk about the weather in Tampa, as we do at the beginning of this episode. So stick with us, guys. There's a lot to come. So I'm going to kick it over to the podcast, recorded live at the show with Mark Phillips. It was quite the event. Here we go. Today's episode of the Occasional Podcast is sponsored by Purist Audio Design. Quality audio deserves quality sound, like the purest of diamonds. Purist Audio Design, one of the originals and high-end, just launched their Diamond Revision. With improved metallurgy, flexibility, and enhanced shielding to protect your system from RFI, EMI, interference from noisy wireless devices, the Diamond Revision, just like all of Purist cables, is made right here in the US of A. For over 35 years, Purist Audio Design has passionately made high-end, handcrafted audio cables designed specifically for the needs of your system. They list their specs, such as resistance and shield quality, and you can find them at PuristAudioDesign.com. Purist Audio Design is veteran-owned and available worldwide. Today's episode is brought to you by Expona 2024. America's largest high-fidelity audio show takes place April 12th, 13th, and 14th at the Schaumburg Convention Center near Chicago, Illinois. Plan a trip to the Windy City this spring and discover over 190 listening rooms of high-end audio equipment and explore the latest in headphone hi-fi and Expona's ear gear experience. Tickets are available now at Expona.com. That's www.axpona.com. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us, Mark and Brian, once again. The Florida International Audio Expo in Tampa.
Or Flax.
I like to say flax, like flaxseed. It's been a kind of a whirlwind of a event for me. The weather's been so-so, to get that guy out of the way, right? We had a good couple first days of raining right now, and it's just your faithful, loyal, traveling audiophiles, Mark and Brian, on this one. So Mark and I covered all the bases. I was shooting podcasting, shooting video. Mark's been diligently cranking out the reports. He's already got some stuff out. Very excited to see what he comes up with. But Mark, before we jump into stuff that sounded good, what's your general kind of takeaway from the show so far?
I think it's busy. I think it's a good show. I think every room is crowded.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in there. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in there talking a lot, so they're kind of noisy rooms. And it's, I think when you have any kind of a news show, it takes a while for the people to get into the etiquette for attending high-end. And that was my impression at the show, is that they're still getting used to knowing how to act in the rooms. I've been called on that before. I've had show attendees tell me to shut up before, and I felt really bad. I'm like, oh, God, yeah, I should know better and everything. Whenever you go to a show for the first time, It's a new show in a new town. I mean, it takes them a while to do it. They get in the hang of it. I think it's a vibrant show. It's kind of exciting. It's kind of laid back. People are interested. Yeah. People are excited. And I like the buzz here.
Yeah. I myself have had a few little quibbles going on in the room. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was sitting in the sweet spot in the Joseph Audio room, and a gentleman, I got up to take a photo, and in that flash of a second, a gentleman thought it would be appropriate to steal my seat. And he knew what he was doing. This wasn't an accident. He says, "Oh, is that guy coming back?" And God bless his soul, Jeff, who runs the room, was like, I don't think he's gone. He's probably coming back." And the guy didn't care. He sat down in the chair.
He was there. I was there, and he was there, and he wasn't moving for anyone. It was like he'd been waiting his entire life to sit in the seat, and he wasn't giving up for anybody. It was a little bizarre.
And so I take the thing, but I guess the bit that got me was that he was kind of like sitting on my bag.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so then I'm like, well, I'm not going to argue that, this is, I know Jeff's running a business here. He's doing his job. I'm just going to grab my bag and, I already got what I need. I'm leaving. And he like wouldn't move his legs. So like he basically wouldn't let me get my bag. So I had to like get my bag out from underneath him. I was like, wow, this was whatever etiquette. But again, people love Jeff's stuff. Joseph Audio. I understand his whatever about it, but that was a bit unusual. And the other bit, now we talked about this before we started recording, that's a little kind of hilarious, I think, is that I've been so lucky when we stay at the hotel sometimes. We stay actually on the same, occasionally, floors as the performance rooms, as the playback rooms. And so I got one of these rooms that is fairly close to another performance room, and people think that my room is a performance room, and I want to formally apologize to the gentleman from today. It used to be Saturday, if you're listening to this. A guy tried to follow me into my room. So the door's locked, I unlock it, I walk into my room, and a gentleman is coming like right behind me. He's trying to force his way into my room, and I do apologize because I did shut the door on him, and I didn't have time to explain because I had a meeting to get into and a phone call to get on. So I just shut the door on this gentleman's face, and I feel terrible about it, but I feel like some other people would be a little freaked out because he was like trying to come into my room like, everything is okay, and I'm sure the gentleman's fine. But yes, it's kind of interesting that all of these little stories are centered around the idea that this show is building. It's doing the room sales thing, but it's getting people in here. It's getting new people in here. Like you said, they don't know the etiquette, but it's getting a bigger draw. Both Friday, I talked to vendors that said, Friday was exceptionally busy. And then
it was. I believe so, yeah.
Waves came in crazy on Saturday. And I was shooting video, and I got to say, it was a little bit difficult to get in today because every room was packed. So Bart Andier runs the show. He's doing a great job. I think he's crushing it because this thing's getting bigger and bigger, and it's obvious that he's bringing in not only the people who usually do the circuit, but new blood as well, which I think is something all showgoers strive for year over year,
It's one of those things. This is the Florida show, and it's in February, and it's kind of genius because people want to go to somewhere warm in the middle of February.
Yeah.
The Newport show was in June, and this is Orange County, California. That's where I grew up, and at the beach, other than what we call the June swoon, which is the overcast skies.
Yeah, so weird, isn't it? It
yeah,
gets
but
cloudy
I remember,
and cold.
but I remember some of the just the best weather in the world. Newport Beach in June. And it was great. People loved going to that show then. And I think it's the same thing with this show, where you're not doing it in Florida in the middle of the summer when it's really swampy.
Really swampy.
Yeah, really
humid.
Swampy.
It gets humid, obviously. You guys know.
Oh, I've had that problem. I had that problem in Munich.
So the show, I think, is off to a fantastic start.
I think so.
And again, I want to thank Bart because he supplied us with our podcasting room, which is very generous of him, and it's soundproofed. So kudos to whoever, I don't know, they didn't tell me who supplied the lighting and the room soundproofing, but thank you very much for that. That's how we're able to get this really great sound. So I think with all the thank yous out of the way, Mark, what was kind of your impressions from Friday? I know you just wrote that up. And by the way, Mark's impressions are all on the website, PartTimeAudiophile.com, or the new URL, pt.audio, If you guys want to type even less, I know I do part-time audiophile. I must punch that in a billion times in my life.
We're kind of phasing toward the PTA from part-time audiophile because I'm anything but part-time.
Yeah.
I'm 7 days a week, 24 hours a day on call. And so
you hear that, guys who need a review? He said he's on call. I'll give you a cell phone number at the end of the podcast.
Well, if you knew that, you would know, and most people out there know how bad I am about answering my phone. I just don't like phones.
Yeah, go ahead and give it out, man. I just don't pick it up. So Friday, it started off strong for me. So one of the first things I did is I walked into the Accor Acoustics room, the big VRC ones, and he has them in this new finish. Did he ever figure out the name?
I'm supposed to go back and figure that out. Yeah. So and I just saw him right before I came in the room, so I should have asked him, but they had not decided on a name. But the one thing we agreed with was this granite finish was very southwestern, and even more accurately, somebody else mentioned Texas, and in Texas they have flagstone everywhere, sandstone, and they envisioned that he would be able to sell many pairs in Texas, and I believe that. But this is a striking finish. It's a little bit, it's colorful, it's not subtle, but at the same time, it just looks beautiful, and it looks like it would fit into somebody's home really well. So that was the first thing, and that's the first room I walked into. Then I went into Gershman. The Gershman, they have their 30th anniversary Black Swan. That's their $80,000 flagship. And, of course, I love the Gershmans anyway. They're just sweet people. Yeah. And it's a big speaker, but what's unique about it is that it looks like it's one speaker, one floor standing speaker, but really it's two enclosures, one with a subwoofer and the other with the two other drivers, and they're actually separate from each other, so the subwoofer does not affect the rest of the cabinetry. And the bass was incredible. They do bass really well, but in this case, this is a flagship. The Black Swan is an older version. This is a brand new version, but it's clear this is all of their thinking put into this thing, and it was really, really nice. Audio Group Denmark is here. They've got 3 rooms.
The boys.
And I've heard this stuff before. And it's, many times, and it still doesn't prepare you for when you actually sit down and they start playing music for you on what it can do, the clarity and the scale and the power, the dynamics and everything. And it's hard to touch that. And so I'll say right now that between the Accor room and the Audio Group Denmark rooms, they're head and shoulders, possibly. It's hard to kind of do what they're doing, and they're doing it for a lot of money.
Yeah. And they had a couple of rooms, but they had a big one out by the pool. I thought that was pretty special.
That's the big one, yeah. It took me a while to find that. I circled around there, and it's outside. I said, it can't be out there because that's where the pool is.
Yeah.
And there was actually, one of them was manning the door outside so that people would know it was there to direct them in, but I wasn't paying attention to that.
It's kind of like the pool house,
The pool house. It was the pool house room with Borison M3s, which are $280,000 a pair.
Now, I'm going to rewind it just a few seconds because actually Mark, God bless your soul, had to fly in from the West Coast. I came in a few days early, but he wasn't quite pulled completely together for the Thursday night shindig because you were still flying in, I believe.
I missed it. It was breaking up as I walked in the door.
Yeah, and so I was there, and I'll just say it was a good little mixer. They had a jazz band playing. That part was fun. Everybody was in good spirits. A bunch of people running around getting ready for the evening. So it was good just to connect with some familiar faces and, tell a couple jokes and hang out with David Solomon a little bit from Cobuzz. This gentleman, he really gets around and shows support for the high-end community from Cobuzz. Tidal, one of their competitors, has kind of pulled back a little bit, some of their support this year, I think, for at least the press in the hi-fi community. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but it's good to see Cobuzz out here saying, we're aligned with...
I was going to use that word, aligned. They're aligned with audiophiles.
Yeah. I feel like they recognize that at least part of their subscriber base.
They're fully committed to the audiophile community in a big way, and I think that's why David Solomon is always there. Everybody loves him to death, and he's very effective in, his title is evangelist, I think.
Yeah.
And so he's very effective at the important, parts of, it's music.
Yeah.
Do you love music? And he expresses that very well. And it's always funny about David Solomon. He seems to be the first person I run into at an audio show. Walk in the door, and there's David Solomon. So we always joke about it, but I see that guy, 10 times a day.
I always run into him in the stairwell. That's where I cross paths with him. Because, by the way, and we do this at every show, but especially for this show, guys, if you do decide to come to an audio show, I highly recommend you start at the top floor and then you walk down through the stairwells on either side, because there's 3 active elevator banks, and they are always clogged during the day, and it makes it very difficult. But if you go to the top and work your way down, or if you want to work out like a muscle man like Mark, start at the bottom and walk your way up. But his calves are just like 2 ham hocks, people. They're crazy. Anyways.
I have to admit that they are. I have trouble with finding the right pants below the knees, because it's just some of these.
No slim cut, period. It's got to be athletic build only, folks.
No, I got to stuff them in there.
So, start at the top, because it's a great way to get a little bit of exercise, but also it relieves that traffic from the elevator banks, which it was pretty bad, and
it can paralyze the show. It can really paralyze the show.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Right now, you said there were 3 elevators. 1 is down.
Yep. And it happens every year. Every show. One of the elevators goes down. You just,
It just gets overworked, and I know if you jump in an elevator, it stops. It doesn't break down. It stops, and they have to come get you out. Yeah. So don't jump up and down in an elevator.
Well, you know what? I actually did, I was running for the door, and I, leapt into the cab.
Yeah.
And it shook a little, and one of the individuals in the elevator was like, "Oh, boy." And I was like, "Oh, that was a huge mistake." You say that, man, I will not be doing that.
No, do not do it. I mean, people think it's fun, and that's how you get stuck in an elevator, and you have to wait for the fire department to come get you out.
Yeah, that's unpleasant.
So don't do that.
Not my favorite. Well, I wasn't jumping up and down, mind you. I just leapt into the car trying to get through the door.
Right,
but don't do that either. Lesson learned. So
enough about elevators.
Elevators,
which I say a lot in my home.
Oh God, the 4th floor just gets crazy to walk up the stairs. So Saturday, now we're recording this on Saturday because we both got to skedaddle out of here for tomorrow. So it's been a pretty action-packed day. I'll just say from my own experience, there was a lot of fun stuff on the top floor. So the 14th floor at this show does not have a dedicated headphone section. The top floor is all headphones. Yeah. So we got a chance to go through a lot of different headphone things. Woo Audio is there showing off a new stand for their little portable tube DAC thing. So they have this device that's basically tubes in a dongle, which is pretty crazy.
It was pretty cool.
And then they put it into a little stand so you can take it with you and then put it on your desk.
Like a docking station. The old docking station for iPods.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing,
smaller.
It
it looks like the old Shuffle used to be, the form factor, but there's a glowing tube in there. So that part was cool, and then they got some of their big flagship stuff too. They have a WA giant 300Bs. They work with all this kind of stuff. So, but that was the new product from them. Audaz's was up there, always sounding good. They have their new series. They keep putting out a couple new headphones. Also, I want to give major props to Michael, I think his name is Mical, from MyTech. And this gentleman sat down with me, and we had a very engaging conversation. That will be in season 10 of the podcast. And he has a little Class D news. And we talked about Class D for a long time. And so look for that coming out, because, Mark, I want to say, Class D doesn't want to seem to stop. We saw it with HiFi Rose. We saw it with, even Tidal had some Class D action going.
Tidal does. The most of except for the flagship line, all of the Audio Group Denmark stuff is Class D.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah, so they believe, the top of the line, 880, that's all pure Class A. So they believe in pure Class A first, and then if you can't do that, do Class D, but never Class AB. That's their way of doing things. So
that's very, very interesting.
And they do it so well, and what it brings out is the fact that you can't hear any transformers. There's no transformers in Class D. Right. And so you don't hear the iron, you don't hear the eddy currents, you hear this clean, quiet sound, and that's Class D. Yeah. It's Class D at its best. And this, the gallium nitrate stuff is taking it up to a next level as well.
So the product from MyTech that he was kind of excited about, the thing we're talking about, is a Class D GaN fed technology, and he's very excited about it. But also noteworthy at the show, our friends at Focal, Name has their new Unity Nova PE. Thank you, Power Edition.
So it's a Unity amp, but it's got 150 watts per channel, so you can drive big inefficient speakers with it, and that's pretty amazing.
So it's coming, folks, and I actually don't have that much negative sentiment for Class D at all. I'm excited for more power, less, hopefully, money in the end. Obviously, GaN-fed stuff is still expensive. R&D is still expensive for this, but it's coming for HiFi, for the high end, and it's coming more and more.
And better.
Yeah, it's getting better and better. So we're all going to have to kind of come to terms with how we feel about that, I think, folks. But the end result is that more and more products are coming. The dominoes are falling. Name is doing it. Now, I think of all the companies, the surprise to me was Name. Because they are, I think, traditionally known, correct me if I'm wrong, as a Class AB.
High current design.
Yeah.
So they live in high current, so they'll have a 60 watt per channel amplifier, but it will play more speakers than you would think. Or 25. I have the Name 850. It's 25 watts per channel, and it's played every single pair of speakers I have in the house.
Yeah. So that was ultimately in the market in terms of having such a big brand, a big company with such heritage, kind of jump the shark, maybe switch up from A to B, from AB to D on a Unity, so that it's like obviously their newer all-in-one form factor, that kind of thing, and they want it's $10K for this thing, so it's not bargain basement. We're looking the premium edition of the line. So the wave of change is coming. I am excited about it. I think it's great. It's something to really kind of think about and talk about because there's a lot of advance to it.
Biggest growing market segment I'm seeing from new products over the last few months is a pair of GaN-fed monoblocks. They're just little things. They're solid, but they're little. And we have one. We'll have a review coming out from Orchard Audio on monoblocks. And I listened to those today, and they were pretty interesting. Okay. The world is changing.
Yeah,
it always is. But this is the new thing. Yeah, that Class D is pretty good, and because of Class D, you can have some of these all-in-one boxes. It's like integrated amp plus a DAC plus a streamer plus whatever, and it's got all this stuff in it, and it's still really light because it's Class D. Class D shrinks down so you don't have the big transformers in it, so you have more room to fit stuff in without it compromising the sound quality. You can still have everything compartmentalized. I haven't been able to say that word today. It's compartmentalized. It just doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
I'm picking up what you're dropping.
Yeah, usually it's just you have to isolate. When you put everything in one box, you have to isolate it from each other. Yeah. And but because of Class D, you just have more architecture to work with.
Right.
More real estate.
Do you have any favorites? I like to do this, like surprises for Mark Phillips. Were there surprises about like, oh, this thing, I didn't expect that.
You probably know about Metaxas and Sins, right? It's this gorgeous sculpture, audio sculpture.
Yeah.
It's really crazy looking. Yeah. It's really expensive stuff. But the one thing, and I've seen it in person, the one thing I haven't done until today was sit down and listen to the system. Mm-hmm. And sure, it's crazy prices, and sure, it's crazy, weird, beautiful types of products that look like nothing else. But I sat down and listened to a system today. Guess what? It sounds pretty darn good. Yeah. I enjoyed that. They were doing reel-to-reel, of course. And I was just sitting there going, you know what, this is pretty high-end. Yeah, so cool. That surprised me. So that would be one. The other thing, too, that I think is maybe the biggest news, and it's very subtle, and I didn't know it till late last night, but I went into the Audio Note room. First of all, Audio Note UK, I got to meet and talk to Peter Kvortrup, who is the legendary guy, and he is really engaging and tells stories and very informative, and he was great. But I was listening to it was in a pair of the A&E speakers, and I just kind of casually asked, "Oh, which model is this?" Because if you know anything about Audio Note speakers, each of the models, the E and the J and the K, there's like 20 variations on what you can get. It has to do with wiring, silver wiring, and magnets and stuff, and they get really expensive. So this was a really pretty high dollar one, but what it was field coil. And
Yes.
And so this is, and it's crazy because right now I'm in the middle of reviewing my first pair of field coil speakers, so I had to do a bit of research to keep up on it. And there's something about field coil. So there's permanent magnets which you attach to a speaker, and it's always magnetic. It's a block of something material that's magnetic. So with a field coil technology, you have a motor that creates the magnetic field. So it isn't, magnetic material. It's a motor making things, like a magneto. And so what it does, though, is it creates a more stable platform to build everything else on. And so I'm doing the Songer Audio S2s right now, and they're just beautiful speakers, and they sound fantastic. And so when I'm in this audio note room, I'm noticing, hey, the A&Es are sounding pretty good. And when he told me it was one of the upper models, I said, well, that explains it. But then they leaned over and said, oh, it's the new field coil design. And I said, aha. So audio note, UK, field coil speakers.
Yeah.
They're the regular ones, and they all look the same from the outside, but not on the inside.
Yeah.
Because you got to put a little, a motor in it. It was a pretty good sound.
That's so cool.
Yeah. That was a big surprise. That was kind of off the beaten path.
Our friends at ZMF Headphones are sponsors of today's episode. ZMF is a curated collection of various sounds and styles in the form of dynamic and planar magnetic wood headphones, designed by founder Zach Merbach since 2011. ZMF has garnered an A+ recommended component in Stereophile, Headphone of the Year on Headphonics.com, and been a 2-time winner of the SBAF Golden Schlong Award. ZMF Headphones. That's the letter ZMF. Headphones.com. ZMF Headphones is the place to go to check out ZMF's collection and learn more. ZMF, traditional craft and modern acoustics. Today's episode of the Occasional Podcast is sponsored by Inuos. Inuos engineers innovative, artful, hi-fi products that deliver unexpected warmth and accuracy. Products that unleash the full potential of digital music playback. Going beyond simple ones and zeros, Inuos products elevate music enjoyment by offering true audiophile performance from your digital music library or hi-fi streaming service. Find an Inuos dealer near you to hear the difference. I think that one of the surprises for me is you guys check out the PTA Facebook page and our social media. We do some updates. But one of the things that went I would go ahead and argue, viral online was this new unreleased TL8 from MC Audio Tech.
Yes.
So they have the bigger version they've debuted previously, but now this is an 8-inch, smaller. And it looks pretty gorgeous, covered in walnut with a black front. But it is a 15K approximate, he said. He wanted to let you know it's not cemented in at 15K. Coming to market very soon, and it just went pretty viral. I'm saying there's 456 likes on this image already, and all we did was post an image. So it is one of those things that seems to be a lot of attention. Any input on why that might be so?
So I reviewed the first version of it. The first speaker that came out was a big $35,000 speaker. It was the biggest. At the time, it was the biggest speaker I ever reviewed in my
They were
house.
in the room. Was it the one that was in the room? Because that guy was
No. That one's discontinued. That's the 4010, I believe is the name of the 4010. My problem with it was when I reviewed it was that I just didn't have enough room for it.
Yeah.
So I needed a little bit more room, and so I always told them, hey, we'll try it again with one of the smaller models. And now they have 2 smaller models. So they did the TL12 last year, and that's $27,000. And it sounded really nice. And now they have the even smaller TL8, which is $15,000. Whereas I reviewed the one that was almost $40,000. And so they're getting smaller, but they're getting better. And it's the technology behind it is just they have a special patented array that they use. So it just has to do with how many individual drivers are part of the array in terms of the size. But it's interesting technology. Paul Paddock is the name of the engineer behind it, and it's Mark Conti is the guy who owns the company. So the two of them they work so hard to get this off the ground. It's been kind of a dream for them. It sounds really nice.
Another room you and I got to visit together was the High End by Oz.
Yes.
And he had
great
some
room.
plasma tweeters, which they never cease to entertain and delight me. When I look into that like burning eye of the tweeter, I'm always like, beautiful. Is it gonna steal my soul? I always think that.
Yeah, and you can get some pretty good photographs of it too if you get it at the right angle. But it's fascinating, and I remember when they first had plasma tweeters, when they first started coming out, and they're really good. The problem with them is one day you go and it doesn't glow anymore because there's leaks. The plasma will leak out. It's a gas, and so they don't have that problem obviously anymore. But High End by Oz is a dealer, but he's becoming a distributor now. And as a dealer, you'd walk into one of his rooms and he had great taste in equipment, but it was a huge wall of equipment. You didn't know really what was doing what. Where this time he had a very, very normal, regular single system in there, and it was Viva from Italy. It was Thrax Audio. It was the Lanchi speakers. And interesting about it is these new albedo cables, which everybody's talking about. And I discussed silver cables before, but these are crystal silver. It's done in a way that nobody else does to maintain the purity of the silver. What pure silver does versus people think silver cables, and it's actually silver plated copper. Yeah. Which is actually worse than either copper or silver. But if you get some pure silver in there, it's remarkably neutral. It sounds like nothing. Remember, cables are supposed to sound like nothing. They're not supposed to sound like anything. Cables don't solve problems. They are the problem. The thing about silver is it's just really fast and really neutral. And so it just stands out of the way of the music. It does it better than copper does. And I like copper.
We got a chance to do an early morning visit with a team from
TAD.
And we got some verification. So we actually got a little clip from our time with TAD that we're going to put in right now for you so you can hear it straight from the guys who represent the company. We'll just cut to that right now. So what do you guys have going on at the show here, and what kind of direction are you guys heading in the future?
We're showing the full line of TAD speakers and also electronics. We've got most of the whole range here so people can understand the depth and breadth of what TAD Labs can produce. Not that you have to have our electronics to make the speakers work. It's just a great pairing, and they've been designed with each other in mind. So if you use any of these amps with any of the speakers, they're going to have a really great expression of the TAD sound. But I heard them with back, and I've heard them with all kinds of other amps, and we're showing a pair up with Wells Audio, a great amp, and they sound amazing up there too. So I think it's our goal is to show the entire depth of the line and have the TAD sound. People can hear it here. And we're showing 4 different systems. So we've got on the reference side of the room the Reference 1 TX, which is the latest of our top-of-the-line speaker, and we have the CR1 TX, the little brother of it, which is surprisingly very close in terms of the overall performance. And, it also goes down to 29 or 30 hertz or something.
Yeah,
really,
it sounds like a full-range speaker to me. So.
People ask, every place I play, it's like, where's the subwoofer? What kind of subs are you guys using? Or, how is that little speaker making that? And I think that it's a combination of things, but, they're using the zero resonance cabinets and having a very dense material that pushes the sound out instead of vibrating the cabinet and things like that make the design really what it is. But then on the other side of the room, we've got the Evolution products. We've got the Grand Evolution GE1, which is a new product that we introduced at the end of last year. So their first time here at the Flag Show, where we introduced the CE1 that's sitting next to it. And, the CE1 TX has had an incredible response, and it made us want to make a bigger version of that to kind of be the top of the Evolution series. I think the other thing we're looking to do here at the show is to meet people who are loving our sound and to build community around TAD, because there's so many people coming into the show that say, I have ME1s, or my friend has the Reference 1, and so we're just, coalescing our family, the TAD family, which is very strong in some parts of the world, and, from taking on the distribution here, and we just feel stuff that we're doing here you see it all over the world now, and I think we've been able to not only reinvigorate the brand here in the U.S., but I think our joint activities with Sinji's direction as CEO to make sure everybody sees what we're doing. Because if you make something great and only we get to hear it, it's not nearly as fun as if everyone else gets to hear it. Yeah.
So the relationship with Pioneer, has that changed recently? Because I feel like I've read something about the fact that it's no longer connected.
No, now the TAD is still in a Pioneer group. So
Okay.
now we are subsidiary. So the Pioneer they started from the speaker. The 1937 we started from the speaker. So year 2016 the Pioneer gave up to continue to the home audio business. But Pioneer never throw the TAD business. So this is the kind of the soul of the Pioneer.
Okay.
Still we are in the Pioneer groups.
Okay.
So TAD had a really great room. We had a great time hanging out with those guys. It sounded great. I had a chance to review their at least expensive model, but I think one of the takeaways that we kind of talked about while we were in the room was that they have like a mini monitor 3-way size that just really performs like a floor stander.
Yeah, it's their compact reference, and I heard it first maybe close to 20 years ago. It looks like a bookshelf, but when you look at it, because it is on a stand, but it's a massive stand, it's a massive speaker.
Yeah.
It is a 3-way, and when you close your eyes, you're listening to a full range. It was one of the very first bookshelf speakers that I listened to that I could say, this, close your eyes and it's a big speaker. And it is a big speaker. And actually, they've had several versions over the years, so they still have it in the lineup.
And so for my money, I do think that it's one of the better beryllium tweeters out there. I think it's fun and engaging. And from my review, even at the lowest price point they produce, it was still a very high performer. Another opportunity I got to run into someone. This is kind of exciting. Our friends at SVS, they don't just make subwoofers, but they do make subwoofers. They also make floor standing speakers, surround speakers, the speakers that hang from the ceiling. Well, they have a new flagship floor stander that is quite something, and they're going for it, folks. They're raising their price points a little bit. They are going after the high end. If it's any nod to whether they're going to be successful or not, you should know their room is constantly packed at every show. It blows me away for a brand that I don't think most people consider a traditional audiophile brand, how good they market themselves and they produce stuff, and their stuff is packed to the gills. And when I mean packed, you cannot step foot in there. Their marketing guy, Nick, was generous enough to give us an update on the new speaker. So here we go. I'm going to roll that clip.
So hi, I'm Nick here from SVS. We are at the Florida International Audio Expo, and we are beyond excited to be showing off our new flagship speaker series. They are the Ultra Evolution series, and these are the culmination of everything SVS has learned about audio engineering and speaker design over the past 12 years since we launched our initial flagship tower and bookshelf and center and surround speakers. And so these are going to be the most ambitious product launch SVS has ever done. And what we're showcasing in our room here at the Expo is a 2-channel system consisting of our flagship Ultra Evolution Pinnacle Tower speakers. There's a lot of technology going on within these speakers. There's actually 3 different tower models that all share this same technology story. One of the biggest things people will notice when they see them is the acoustically centered time alignment. Essentially, there's an angled front baffle which allows you to align the center of each one of the mid-range and woofers with the very front edge of the tweeter, and that allows you to have this acoustic center which emanates the sound so it hits your ear at the exact same instant, which just gives you a much more accurate representation of what the source content is supposed to be. The other big thing that we've done with the tweeter is through a process that wasn't even possible 10 years ago called vapor deposition. We essentially apply a layer of diamond dust to our aluminum dome tweeter, and this raises the breakup frequency well beyond the limits of human hearing. So essentially you get amazing, effortless, airy, effervescent highs without a trace of distortion, and it just really allows us to create a wonderful high-frequency experience, as well as blend it more seamlessly with the mid-range. And we are SVS. We know a little bit about bass. bass. So we took a cue from our 3000 micro subwoofer, and in each one of our tower speakers, we also have a pair of woofers, both at the top and the bottom of the cabinet. And the benefit of this is when you have two of these in a stereo setup or in a home theater, you essentially have 8 different woofers firing in different directions throughout the room, and this allows you to really smooth out any sort of modal distortion that could happen and just give you very even bass response throughout the listening area. And also because they're force canceling, they move in and out together, you get no vibrational energy within the cabinet. It's completely canceled out, so it keeps it inert. Each one of those woofers and mid-range drivers is its own sub-enclosure within the cabinet, which just gives you better separation and again further reduces any chance of distortion. A couple other sort of stylistic updates we've done with the new speakers. They will be available in our piano gloss black, but also the entire line will be in piano gloss white as well as our black oak veneer wood grain finish. It's our first speakers with magnetic grills as well, so you get a nice clean look on the front of the baffle, and so we're super excited to have these. They're going to be available in mid-March as the 2 largest towers, the center and the ultra elevation, which is actually our probably most requested speaker. It gets paired with tons of other brands to bring in Atmos effects, as well as the larger bookshelves. Those will all be available in mid-March. So again, we are beyond excited. It's been about 10 years since we refreshed our flagship speaker line, so we really did a complete teardown of the originals and recreated what we thought would be the finest speaker at its price point, and even well beyond that. So the 3 tower speakers are going to go for $5,000 for the largest, a pair, $4,000 for the middle, which is our Ultra Evolution Titan, and then $3,000 a pair for the Ultra Evolution Tower, which is the smallest of the towers. The center channel is going to be $799. The Ultra Elevations are going to be $900 a pair. The Ultra Elevation bookshelves are going to be $1199 a pair, and then the Ultra Elevation Nanos will be $899 a pair.
Today, Mark, Saturday, how was the trip around the block? How did things look? I couldn't get over to the traffic that we already talked about a little bit, but did you manage to squeeze your way in some rooms and hear some good stuff?
There were very few rooms where there were available seats when you first walked in. So, you walk in and you're looking around and there's nothing. And that gives you an indication of how busy it is. And, even the big rooms are filled up. You've got a Cora in a big room. Audio Group Denmark is in a big room too, and they're filled with people. It's just they have to be really happy. And I did hear people talking about show attendance, and apparently everybody lies about their show attendance and says it's a much bigger number than it is. Because I remember I thought Exponent was huge, and I said something about 20,000 people, and everybody thought, oh, you're an idiot if you think 20,000 people showed up to a. But you know what? There's a lot of people here, and
Bart did not officially release any numbers. I did ask.
They never will, I think, right?
He's not going
nobody's
to.
Gonna give
He's
you
not going
numbers.
to because
everybody wants to be the biggest show. So, yeah. But you can tell when a show is dead and nobody's going. And I've been to quite a few of those, and they're kind of a drag. But this is not one of those shows. This is kind of a crackling, exciting show. And so today, I don't know. I almost felt like it was busier yesterday, which is really rare. Usually everything happens on Saturday. Friday, it doesn't happen till later because people are still working. Sunday is dead, and half the room.
That will be ultimately the thing to me. Is if it's hot tomorrow, then he will defy all odds. Because I've never seen a hot Sunday. But if you listen to our shows, Mark has often said Sunday is the best day to come.
Because everything, like Friday, so what I do is Friday, I don't do any serious assessments of the rooms because everybody has been up all night trying to figure out everything, and they may not have solved all the problems. You traditionally you have a day, Thursday, to set up a system, make sure it sounds great, and do everything you have to do to make an impression. And that's hard. And sometimes you walk in a room, you don't know what to expect, and you have all sorts of horrible issues that you have to solve before 10 o'clock on Friday. Yeah. So Friday, you still have people. Once in a while, you see rooms that are still closed up because they've got major problems. And the one thing about this show that everybody's having a problem is the internet. Logging on to the network. Yeah. And I haven't seen the problem for a while. It used to happen all the time. But this is a show where it was overwhelmingly people are having things cut out and problems, and they're doing the impression of the IT guy, the computer audio guy who says, I don't know why it's not working. Yeah. And there is a lot of that. And God, I had it happen in the middle of chocolate chip trip in one room.
Oh, heaven forbid.
It was just like, my heart skipped a beat. It's like, what happened? And
by the way, I did do my shtick where I had people play some Taylor Swift, and it was not well received in any room. They are. I think they're more accepting of chocolate chip trip than they are of Taylor Swift. It's heavily loathed.
Not to get political, but we're in Florida, and they're conservative, and they don't like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, so it's of course not. So, but I would play it just to piss them off.
Yeah. I'm not trying to intentionally piss anybody off, but the track I have is a legitimately good sounding track. So let's not get too whatever about it. But yeah, I did hear Chocolate Chip Trip a couple times. I did not hear Taylor Swift outside of whatever. So it is not catching on like the trip, as I like to call it.
No, it's catching up with the trip.
Mm-mm. So one other thing that I saw that I thought was kind of fun is I think it's Fine Sounds Americas, or
yeah, they kind of took a little bit of the Macintosh Group pie a couple of years ago.
Samico cartridges, right? Project Turntables, a couple other companies.
Rotel.
Oh my goodness, the brain on this guy! Your memory's amazing. And so the one thing that caught my eye at least was the Dark Side of the Moon turntable.
Oh, I got to go back and take a photo of that because that's awesome.
Yeah, it's clever because it has a little rod that comes in like the light coming in, but it was not plugged in. But I was told that the rays of light on the other side of the triangle, that's the prism, light up with LEDs when it's on.
With the prism, yeah.
So that turntable's cool. They still have a few left of the Metallica one that's been around, so they do these fun little things. But the new one is the longest selling album. I think it's been in the top 10 the most of any album ever. Dark Side of the Moon. It
was insane. It was on the Billboard Top 100 for 17 years straight or something crazy.
So it's the shape of the triangle. It looks like the cover.
It's very cool. It's cooler than the Metallica one because the Metallica one you look at and you don't necessarily know it's Metallica unless you're a Metallica fan.
Right.
But this is the Pink Floyd one is such an iconic image that you have to know what it is, and it's very cool.
So it was good times. They had a new speaker in there. Oh my goodness, is my memory Amateur. Okay, I got it. I was actually commenting with another person how for this podcast it would be nice if we had like a Joe Rogan third guy to be like, hey, will you pull I don't know if you've seen the Joe Rogan podcast, but they have a third guy with a computer, so when they don't know something or they want to see something, he pulls it up right away. I'm like, we need that. But anyways, they were more of a grassroots operation here. The new Sonus Faber Lumina Emitter, I think it was 5. Because you know how they do 5 and 3, depending on how many drivers you get.
Because 4 is an unlucky number in.
Oh, is that one of the companies?
In Asian countries, it's like number 4 is like number 13.
They always skip 4. Because
it's an unlucky number there.
Oh, that's very
interesting. It isn't 13.
Interesting.
They don't care about 13, but they do care about 4.
I was genuinely curious about that because I have the Sonus Faber Olympica Nova 3. And just like this one, it jumps to 5 with the next driver. So there's like...
Right. So that's a traditional thing. So...
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was stories about the Lincoln Continental Mark IV not selling outside of the U.S. very well for that very reason. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's 4. It's a relatively. 13. It's
It seems so harmless.
Yeah, but 4 is such a primary number. So it's an important number. So many things are 4 that it seems like you're being a little bit too picky.
I would agree.
But there you
can't control the masses.
It's not even a prime number like 13.
7 is also a little creepy. It just looks like a hook.
But it's lucky 7 though. Lucky that's a lucky number.
4 is such a welcoming number. All right, I digress. Let's get on to the good stuff.
Okay, so one of the things is Volti Audio.
Mm-hmm.
They have a new speaker.
Yep.
It is slotted between the RAS, the entry level RAS, and the next one up, which is the Rival. So it's about $11,750. And if you know about Volti, they're bighorn speakers. They're very efficient, and they always work in rooms they have a partnership with Border Patrol, who amps in the DAC, and then also Triode Labs wire, which is this really, really good wire that is very reasonably priced. And so I visit the room almost every show that I can, and it's a lot of times they have the same stuff, but this time they have this new Lucera, And this Lucera, it looks like the Raz. It looks like a slightly larger version of the Raz. But I noticed something, and there was a level of refinement. And it kind of went up a little bit in a nice refined sound, which is, see, these are wild, fun, dynamic speakers usually, and these Luceras were definitely that. But there was also just a sense of we know when to be serious and really deliver the goods.
Right.
And we're not all about the party speaker. I mean, I think they're really party speakers that you could have your buddies over, 20 of your buddies over every night, and just blow out the windows with these speakers. That's not their only reason for being, but they're capable of doing it with very little power, kind of Klipsch Heritage kind of.
Yeah.
And but they're a lot more refined than that. But this new speaker you can see that there's an evolution that Greg Roberts, he's honing his craft and he's coming up with something better. So I always liked their system. Yeah. It's a good sound, but this one was just a little different. It was just a little cooler, a little bit more suave.
I like that. 300Bs too. The guy, Border Patrol, 300B sound.
I love 300Bs now. And then the final one I really wanted to talk about was the Triangle. Triangle, it's Triangle, French company, and they have a partnership now with Elektrokompaniet from Norway. The distributor does both of them, and I happen to have both of them in my listening room right now. I'm reviewing them. And you'll hear, we have our writer Greg Neville reviewed the Ontals, which are floor standard that I believe are $4,000 or $5,000 a pair. And he fell in love with them so much and he had been in the market for a new pair of reference speakers. So he loved the Ontals so much that he said, what's your top of the line? How much is it? How much can I get for my money here? And the top of the line is Quatuor and Magellan Quatuor, and it's $20,000. And he bought it, and he's ready to declare it product of the year. He loves it. So what I have in is the Magellan Duetto premium two-way, my kind of speaker, bookshelf speaker. And when I first plugged them in the first time into the Elektrokompaniet integrated, it was just such a bright, not bad bright, good bright, a bright, happy, energetic, really eager and exciting personality to it. They're really clear and open. And the ones I have, they're $7,000 a pair, but they instantly qualify as one of the best two-ways out there, monitors out there. It's really good stuff. And the Elektrokompaniet, it's the ECI 6, and there's a lot of other numbers and letters I can't memorize, but it is a integrated amp, 120 watts per channel, I believe, but it also has a DAC and a streamer in it. And it all works really well. So I like both brands, and I'll come back and listen to some more.
Get you some more.
But it's really good stuff. It's two legendary brands that have been around forever, and they're kind of making a new press, a new second wind in the United States over the last with these new partnerships. Mm-hmm. This stuff is really good. It's better than it's ever been. It's really good stuff.
Oh, one of the other ones, I know we were talking about 300Bs, but the king of 300Bs, the Western Electric, they actually have an integrated they've had out for a few years. But
91E.
The 91E integrated, I got a chance to hear.
I heard it in Munich.
I thought it was so fun. And it looks gorgeous. It's like audio jewelry.
It's an amazing. And what is it now? When I saw it was $15,000.
I do not know.
It was at Munich last year. It was $15,000.
I think it's around $15K.
Yeah, still. Yeah. But it's just the heritage, and it has Western Electric 300Bs in it. And now that I've discovered my love for 300B amplifiers again, I guess I'm gonna have to get some Western Electrics, right?
That's what I'm saying, dude.
I think I need some Western Electric 300Bs for my Alnick.
Oh. Lovely. And if you're looking for a company, a retailer, a website retailer that has a lot of audio products that span both, it's definitely like a hi-fi retailer. But Moon Audio does a lot of headphone stuff, but they also do speaker stuff, Focal and this. So they were at the show with two rooms, one speaker room with Focal speakers in a new green color. I think it was the.
It's called Moss Green, and I saw it. I mean, that's one more thing is I was over at Focal Name, and they were showing me the speaker, the new line. They have a new line, and it's this Moss Green, and it takes on different colors of green, shades of green in different light. So you can look at it from one side, and it looks like it's one color, and you can look at another side. You can open up the windows, and this green keeps changing, and they were showing me photographs with different things and how many different types of green could be. It's pretty amazing. And the way they're acting is like it was accidental. Like they didn't mean for it to do all that. But once they saw it, they said, "Oh my God!" But it's a beautiful color.
And so Focal, and then like I was talking about the top floor room, they had all headphones up. Like if you come to a show, they'll have a huge U-shaped display where you get to try all kinds of different stuff. They make their own cables for that particular genre, headphone cables, and then they had the moss green, new Focal floor standards. So they had quite a selection of things. Also, back in the Focal room that you were talking about, they had 2 rooms. So there's the dedicated Focal room, but also a new finish that was like a tiger stripe. I like
Okay, what it is I was going to bring that up. It was on the Utopia,
Yeah.
La Scala. The model is the Utopia, Focal Utopia La Scala, which is it's actually their smallest 2-way right. I mean, their tallest floor standard 3-way right now. It's called White Zimbrano, or the zebra wood.
Yeah.
White Zimbrano, and it was gorgeous. If I was going to buy a pair of Focal speakers, depending on which model it was, I would have to have either the moss green or the white zebra wood. They were gorgeous finishes. Yeah. Some of those gorgeous finishes at the show.
I would agree. I'll stamp that ticket, bro. It was, and then everybody's little favorite, the Stone. I think is they're little speakers that look like stone. Not little. They're like 8
they're outdoor
inches.
speakers,
Yeah.
but they're stones, and they really look like stones.
They
don't
look
look
cool.
they don't look like cheap
love
plastic stones. They touch
Yeah.
me about this plastic. It's like no, there's real finishes like sandstone and granite and stuff. They look like rocks. I'm not sure. Last year they were $850 a piece, and then you can just buy a bunch of them and spread them all out because they actually really sound good.
Yeah.
I did a chocolate chip trip with those,
Yeah.
and other than the fact that it's all kind of on the ground, it was still pretty good.
Very cool. So, do you have a favorite? Do you have a highlight from the show?
Listening to the big Audio Group Denmark room. Mm-hmm. I was adding up the prices in my head for the system, and I started going north of $1 million.
Wow.
But also they said, their cables, which you don't see all the cables in there, are all adding significant cost to it because they have very expensive cables. Somebody told me that around $3 million.
$3 million. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that's the most I've ever heard.
Well, in Munich, they had the ESD Acoustics, which is the Chinese company, and then they had like 40 amplifiers in there, and it was and huge horn speakers.
Maybe a wall of Macintosh might get up there, but I don't know. That's still a grand.
$1 million is a lot of money, but it's there. It sounds incredible, and that was the room where the 2 gentlemen were discussing avorvastatin, and it was just like, guys, you're in the presence of greatness here. Shut up. And so that's, after you walk out of that room, you kind of say to yourself, it's kind of hard to match that. Yeah. But I will tell you that the new Acora, the VRC one, is amazing, and he runs that with VAC. He had it with VAC, and declared that the chocolate chip trip champion. I did that a couple of years ago, the first time I heard the VRC ones. And this time I had maybe the best playback of VRC one, of chocolate chip trip in that room. And because Val was really willing to crank it up just a little bit more. And so there was an older couple in the very front seats, and I was right behind them in the second row seats, which was actually the sweet spot. Val warned them, and he said, warning, this is going to get really loud. And I thought, I almost brought out my video camera and shot a video of them to see the moment that they say, oh, God, we got to get out of here. And they stayed till the very end, and then they stood up and said, that was awesome.
Oh, cool.
And so I had to go up and say, glad you liked it. I didn't think you were going to make it.
You just tap him on the shoulder and be like, you're welcome, sir.
You're welcome, sir. I've changed your life. And so, and that was the thing where in the beginning it was I always wanted to chase out half the room, but bring another cooler half in to enjoy it. And it doesn't happen anymore. People stay put. Because it's kind of I hate talking about it now because I've talked about it so much, but it really is when you sit down and listen to it, especially for the first time. It's an incredible track.
Do you have a favorite budget or less than $5,000 room that you heard?
No.
I don't even know if there's a $5,000 room in the place.
I'm not seeing a lot of cheap. I mean, maybe Fine Sounds America. I'm going to go back in there and maybe they.
I would say Focal.
Oh, Focal.
The new one, but not the Utopia is obviously more. Yeah, this is a high-end show, folks. So it's like there are bargain things, but the majority of stuff is they come to play hardball. You know what I
Right.
mean?
That's the thing about shows is that, you know, they're bringing the stuff. They're bringing their best. They have to
Yeah.
impress you. They're pushing sales, so they're bringing their flagship stuff. And I know a lot of people get turned off by that. That the fact that, you know, they complain about the high prices in high-end audio and how everything's getting. No, it's to trickle down. And Audio Group Denmark is the perfect example of that. So, and I will give you a budget product now. Is Boris, and they did the $100,000 X1, which is a two-way bookshelf monitor. That's $100,000. Then they built the X3, which is floor standard, $208,000, and then they built the X6. No, the M6. Sorry, not the X. The M6, and that's $550,000 a pair. Okay, so they went up, and then they trickled down, and they started their new Axis brand, which is the entry-level stuff, but it has the same technologies as the big stuff is. So now you have the new X1 bookshelf, and it's $5,500 a pair. And there's the Forte one, which is a integrated amp, plus a DAC and a streamer, all in one box for $5,500. So you got $11,000, and then add whatever cables you want, and you have a killer system. And then they have the X2s, and Lars Christensen of Audio Group Denmark told me he thinks the X2, which is, I can't remember the price of it. It's probably about $8,000, and it's
$8?
Greg Weaver for our magazine did the X3, and those are like $11,500. So it's somewhere between $5,500 and $11,500, and it's a small three-way floor stander. And Lars told me, he said he's really proud of the M1s, the $100,000 monitor, but his second place one is those X2s because he thinks that's the best value of anything that they sell. And if you've heard the X1 and the X2 and the X3, you scratch your head. It's like, wow, it's only this much? Because so one moment you're going, oh my God, $100,000 mini monitor, and then the next moment you're going, oh, $5,500, that's it? And it's the same company. And so that is my budget pick, is the Borison X1 loudspeaker. It's really good.
Well said. I wasn't sure where you were going with that, but I like how you brought it right back around.
Oh, you know, with these painkillers, I don't know if I can always bring it back to the...
If you're religious, folks, please say a prayer for Mark's hip. He is a
No, it's my tailbone.
His tailbone.
It was my hip, and then broke my tailbone just 10 days ago or something like that. So I am hopped up. Hopped up on Advil, and
He's getting crazy with the Advil, folks. I told him just
that
one
stuff's
pill,
good.
but no, you had to do two.
Oh no, I never knew. Now I know why people like Advil so much. It really, it kept me on my feet at the show.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you so much for your help. Glad you had a good show and safe travels back home.
Yep. Going back to Oregon.
The Occasional Podcast is a production of the Part-Time Audiophile Network, which includes PartTimeAudiophile.com, The Occasional Magazine, the PTA Newsletter, and AudioHead.com. You can stay in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The Occasional Podcast is produced and hosted by Brian Hunter, executive produced by Scott Hall at PTA Productions. The Occasional Podcast and its original associated music is monitored, mixed, and mastered on the Focal Trio 6 BE studio monitors. If you haven't already, please subscribe to The Occasional Podcast on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.